Coming up on One Detroit, the future of the design economy in the metro area, plus the expression of interpretive dance with Peter Sparling. Also ahead, the Detroit Chamber Winds and Strings on how to engage their audience. And then musicians in the making at the Detroit Institute of Music Education. I'm Christy McDonald. Join me this Memorial Day. One Detroit is coming up.
Support for this program provided by W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, MASCO Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. MASCO, serving Michigan communities since 1929. The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. NISSAN Foundation, and viewers like you.
Hi there, and welcome to One Detroit. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining me. It's Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you had a chance to enjoy the outdoors and the sunshine. We have a special tribute to our country coming up at the end of the show from the Livingston County Band. It's a virtual performance. You're not going to want to miss it. But on this show, it's all dedicated to arts and culture. So coming up on One Detroit, the design economy and the innovation that is coming out of the pandemic. I talk with Olga Stella from Design Core Detroit. Plus, we'll see how interpretive dance is taking on a new meaning in this video world. Also ahead, planning for the future of concerts for the Detroit Chamber Winds and Strings. And then, artists in the making, you will see what's happening at the Detroit Institute of Music Education. And then we will finish up with a salute to America this Memorial Day. That is all coming up. All right, but we are starting tonight with Design Core Detroit. It's an organization that's focused on strengthening Detroit's economy by encouraging more design businesses. I caught up with its executive director, Olga Stella, and she talked about the creativity that's emerging right now. This is a time where this has disrupted our lives. Give us an idea of how the pandemic is affecting design organizations and really the impact across the board in Detroit.
Every other sector of our economy, people have experienced, the slowdown, right? Both disruption in their way of working, sometimes projects being postponed, but we have other people in the design community, other businesses who have seen more work pick up. You got to get that online e-commerce website up and running fast. So, our web designers are working hard at that. Businesses are trying to figure out how to make changes to their physical space. So architects and interior designers are working on that. So, it's uneven, I think, like with a lot of other sectors of the economy, but like designers do, people are innovating and trying to get through it.
Detroit is the only UNESCO City of Design in the United States. What kind of conversations have you been having with other places around the world about how they're dealing right now during this time?
There's been a very active chatter in the UNESCO Cities Network. And so we're seeing in Geelong, Australia, for example, a company took a shipping crate and created a visiting pod so you can visit your loved one in their nursing home or their senior facility in a beautiful space that can be brought right on site, that's safe. You're separated by a plexiglass partition. In Singapore, they have a contact tracing app that people can download and use. In Kortrijk, the city installed wayfinding decals on the streets to maintain one-way traffic to help with social distancing. So there's a lot of different solutions that we're seeing all across the world. that we're helping, to share here locally, and we hope will inspire others here too.
What's your concern now that there might be so much focus pivoting in different areas, or resources be put in different areas just to kind of recover from where we are right now, that design might end up taking a backseat again, or the need to pull those businesses in?
If decision makers continue to think of design just as aesthetics or window treatment, that is what's going to happen. But if they think of designers as having a unique way of being creative, but also creating tangible solutions, then I think our short-term challenge is to help show the really specific ways that can happen. We have examples here locally. So Skidmore Studio, they organize their clients into a new venture called Michigan Fields to help, do online food shopping and then delivery at your homes with many well-known brands. Zenith and Isaac and Detroit Denim and a number of our fashion and apparel firms. Like, what does fashion have to do, with the pandemic? Well, we're all going to be needing a supply of face masks pretty soon. So being able to help decision makers really understand this is about problem solving and not aesthetics is what's going to help keep design really at that forefront and help keep inclusive ways of working at the forefront. Because if the pandemic has shown us anything, is that both class and race and economic divides they've been laid bare. And if we all are working in a way that really considers how everybody gets to participate in society, then we all get to recover from the pandemic together.
What things might be in 8 months from now that we would have never been able to fathom on March 1st of this year?
I think in some ways this is that big disruptive moment, the way the 9/11 was 20 years ago. Our supply chains may continue to be disrupted for the long run. We may want to localize manufacturing and do more of it in communities so that you can get the things you need when you need them. The way that our restaurants are likely going to change forever, so do they turn into partial food pantries? What does that front of house experience look like? I even think about independent retailers in our city. Now is a time where if they have the right kind of support, they can start to innovate some business models. Rachel Lutz in the Peacock Room with her blowout sales day by doing a Facebook Live event. So imagine going to the store, 6 months from now, and you've picked out online the 6 things that you want to try on, and there's a disinfected changing room waiting for you, and you're in and out, but you still get the in-person experience. So at Design Core, we're brainstorming and working with our design community to start to surface these kinds of innovations, these kinds of ways that we're all going to be living and working differently, even when the stay-at-home order goes up. I mean, that's exactly what design is. It's working together to define the problem and then iterating and testing solutions.
The world of dance has also been on pause at this time, but choreographer and dancer Peter Sparling at the University of Michigan has been exploring the use of video technology with interpretive dance. Peter Whorf from WRCJ has more.
Peter Sparling is Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Dance at the University of Michigan, and he was principal dancer with the Martha Graham Dance Company. Man in the Moon is a video that I watched of yours, which also suggests this idea that we're experiencing now about kind of being alone or being somewhere isolated, away from people. Can you tell our viewers about Man in the Moon, what we're seeing there?
Many of my works come about because I want to experiment or explore certain aspects of video technology. In this case, I knew that green screen chroma key technology would allow me to create all sorts of illusions on the screen. So at the Duderstadt Video Studio at the University of Michigan, I asked Jacques and Jeff, the technicians, to train a hot spotlight down on a green floor, thinking that I could then insert a film of an eclipse over that area of the green and give the illusion that I was actually treading the surface of a planet during an eclipse. And I was very fortunate in that I went online and I found beautiful footage by a fellow, William Castleman, who had actually filmed an eclipse in high resolution. So the piece came together quickly. I was fortunate to have permission from a colleague in the composition program at U of M, Eric Santos, to use a score that he had written, a percussion score. And it fit together wonderfully. I see a man almost kind of like a grown-up, lost little prince, you know, who's cast away on some island in the cosmos. It's a time warp. Not only is there an eclipse going on, but he's kind of going in and out of memories, of different psychological states. So in most of my works, I try to leave it open enough so that the viewer can interpret as he or she wishes, but to make it evocative enough and dynamic enough so that it keeps the viewer riveted. This obsession with video really came about through my teaching at the university, in that 20-odd years ago, a colleague and I decided that we needed to offer students the ability to make work on video, to make art on video, because we knew that video was going to become more and more important and it was going to proliferate media. Something about this pandemic that has just been staring me right in the face is this fact that video and media, social media, have become so important. Every arts organization now is bridging this pandemic and of finding modes of communication online. How does one concertize online? What happens to a group of musicians who are all playing together on Zoom? How can dancers interact on Zoom? I mean, these are questions I've been asking for years, but suddenly it seems so important. And we don't know how long this pandemic's going to last. I'm on an advisory committee for the University Musical Society, and we spent most of our last meeting talking about the use of media, of online programming. So long story short, I'm finding that all of my work in video is suddenly becoming extremely relevant to a lot of people.
Music festivals and chamber groups are busy trying to figure out what the future holds for performances and how to keep their audiences engaged. Well, recently I caught up with Maury Okun. He is the president of the Detroit Chamber Winds and Strings, as well as the president of the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival, about his concerns and some future plans. We've talked to so many people in the music industry about the changes and what has happened in the last 2 months or so. You said that you've been more busy now communicating with people than you ever had before, and talking about where things go from here.
We participate with a lot of different nonprofits. We're a sort of a collaboration unit, and it doesn't happen very often when all of them hit crises at the same time. And so that sort of changes the rules for us. Yesterday, for example, was a date that the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, had applications due for their, the new funds that they have for this. For us, we have 3 organizations who are eligible for that, so we have to do everything multiple times. So it just gets more complicated. For an organization like Detroit Chamber Winds, our season was almost all over already. For the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival, which is supposed to go on in June, and here we've spent all the money and time that we need to present that, but now it can't happen in June. Then it's a much more complicated equation. So the timing is, like everything in life, timing is everything here.
So when you talk about looking forward and what being in the arts, being able to perform or have people gather in spaces, what are the biggest conversations you're having right now about some of the biggest challenges?
One of the things we do is this summer festival, and we didn't want to be out in front of the big summer festivals about canceling or postponing, but we finally figured we needed to do this. So you can look on the website for big summer festivals, Tanglewood, Aspen, they're all doing things still, but will that happen? I'm not confident. And so we all are talking to each other about, how can this work? What should we be doing? What's the long-term investment we should make in streaming? Our audience tends to be elderly. And of course, now we're in a COVID hotspot with an elderly audience trying to get together in big spaces. That's not a great place to be right at the moment. On the other hand, our organizations are relatively small, and so we're flexible.
What are some of your musicians telling you about maybe how unsure they are about what things will look like?
The people who struggle the most are the sort of young professional people who aren't associated with bigger institutions in any sort of ongoing way. And we're trying to figure out how can we help those people sort of stay going as we go on. It's a challenge because we can stream a piano recital from somebody's living room, but how much of that can you do? And the musicians themselves can't get together to do things. And for that to happen, we need to be farther along in what's safe here. Right? So that's part of the challenge for us is we can't really even get the musicians together to make stuff happen that we could then stream out.
How do you see this as a disruption or a forever change in the arts and culture community?
How the field is going to play itself out with this is going to be a really interesting model because classical music has always been something that audiences tend to come to after their kids are gone. So the audiences are still going to be older, and how that's going to play itself out is a question that's sort of beyond my pale. We have to stay flexible and open.
What would you say to people to keep in mind when they think about the classical music community right now?
Think of it the other way around, which is how do we stay relevant and in front of people all the time? Classical music is not like selling potato chips. It's not like if you package it up the right way, everybody will buy it. If there's not that kind of demand. And our audience tends to be people who are curious, intellectually curious, and will be willing to take some risk with us. So I think they'll go with us once we can find a way to communicate that makes sense. Much harder to do electronically. I was thinking about it this morning as we need to do some solicitations, and I know that's not really the art, but it has something to do with it. We're not used to soliciting people on the phone, right? That's something you do in person. Our audience is very generous, but I'm not used to doing that without being sitting across the table or across the desk from someone.
Could we just continue to check the website for updates and where you'll be going for both organizations?
Wearing the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival's hat, we've postponed stuff that we're going to do in June, and we have the option of doing stuff in the end of August. In the meantime, we're working with different ways to touch our audience to create musical experiences that people will cherish and enjoy in little snippets, at least. For the Detroit Chamberwinds, the season is now over. What does the next season look like? I think everybody's in a sort of a wait and see mode. Many of our musicians are involved with the Detroit Symphony, and what happens there is going to affect all of us.
This next story comes to us from our show called Detroit Performs, which you can see on Detroit Public Television. It's a closer look at the Detroit Institute of Music Education and the amazing talent there that is ready to break through.
The concert was over in Carnegie Hall. The maestro took bow after bow. He said, "My dear friends, I have given my all. I'm sorry, it's all over now."
The message from Dime is, make your own opportunity. Any one of these artists that you're going to meet today, if someone puts $1 million behind them, they will sell as many records as Alan Stone, as
Alicia Cara,
as Alicia, as any of them, because they're amazing.
Oh, baby,
And the difference between the ones who do it and the ones who don't are the ones that get opportunity.
Oh, Mr. Paganini, please play my Rhapsody. Well, I always say that I've been singing since before I could talk. I actually wanted to try to pursue it and really feel like it was what I was meant to do.
There's nothing else I'd rather be doing than playing music. I've been playing for 24 years now. I was just playing in cover bands over the years and jam bands with friends, having a good time, and then stumbled upon Dime, and it's just forwarded my experience and talent even further.
He's gonna be amazing. He works hard. Every time we get back to class that Monday, before we play anything, we talk, how was your weekend? What did you do? And his list of what he's done. Oh, I played 2 gigs here, and I DJ'd a wedding, and then I did this gig, and then I had a studio session, and I'm just like, wow, this guy's working.
The one thing that stuck with me that he said on the first day of orientation, and I remind myself of it all the time, is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I try to live by that every day to be able to be successful and provide for myself.
He is now the go-to for anyone who wants an incredible drummer. And he really understands that kind of mentality of training to be a session musician and being flexible. He's brilliant, he's brilliant.
Being behind the kit definitely is my safe place because I've been playing for so long. So there's definitely a lot of confidence that the drums bring in with my performing. Just with timing, being able to play in odd meters, some really complex stuff that I never thought I'd be able to do.
Every time he steps on that stage, I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get the consistency, I'm gonna get the dedication. He studies, he learns, he listens.
He's a super talented drummer, but he's also just a really awesome dude. He's really chill. You know, I really appreciate that because I can be a lot sometimes. So I appreciate somebody who can balance just, you know, when I talk to him, I'm just like, you're a good guy.
I heard your repertoire and at the final bar.
My life is pretty much revolved around the voice and music and trying to make things better through that. I think the music, particularly singing, is like a universal language, and I think that's one of the things that keeps me going with singing and just like knowing that like I can connect with people through that.
Devin Woodson, that's my guy, man. He's a good guy, and I've seen him grow so much since he's been here. He was talented when he walked in the door, but now that talent has been groomed, it's been polished.
Now let me blow your mind.
When I'm on stage, honestly, nothing can touch me. I feel nothing except for love and like passion, and sometimes hurt. But that's where I can cry if I want to. That's where I can be angry about something if I want to. In everyday life, I don't necessarily get to do it all the time.
I think with Devin, the main thing was just kind of like building up his confidence. So kind of like getting him to figure out what his niche was and how can he stand out and make a name for himself.
I have to be willing to be vulnerable myself, and that's something I'm still learning.
A mournful cry.
Much better. Did that feel better?
Yes.
It just felt like you were telling a story. When I was working with Devin, he was singing a jazz song, which Devin is really, really good at jazz, and it's something that he's done in his past. But it's about kind of like applying those techniques that he's learned in his first and second year as just like a music practitioner, and now applying it again to this jazz song. So kind of taking it to the next level. So take a deep breath and make sure you place the vowel before you sing it.
Listen, Paganini, we breathlessly await your masterful baton. Go on and swing it.
The song is Mr. Paganini, you have to swing it. It's most notably done by Ella Fitzgerald, who is one of my biggest vocal inspirations.
Listen, Paganini, please play my rhapsody.
I think the biggest thing I've learned here is, as far as vocally, is just take care of my voice. I'm still working on building new habits and then breaking old ones that I had. And so I think that's something I'm always like working at, just trying to create a routine for my voice. Because I mean, like I said, I only get one, and I want to keep it for a very long time.
My plans once I graduate are to definitely get picked up for some sort of major tour as a backing band drummer, but also I'd like to get into some session and studio work.
I want to do these things, but I want to make sure that my voice is heard in a light that people know that I love them.
I never blink back at fireflies would do.
And that is going to do it for One Detroit. Thanks so much for joining me. For more on the stories that you saw here on this show and the daily interviews we're doing, just go to our website at onedetroitpbs.org. All right, we have a salute to our country this Memorial Day. The Livingston County Band virtually performing the Star Spangled Banner. Enjoy, and I'll see you on Thursday. Take care. You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.
Support for this program provided by WK Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, MASCO Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. MASCO, serving Michigan communities since 1929. The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public TV, among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving. We support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Visit dtefoundation.com to learn more.
Business Leaders for Michigan, dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. NISSAN Foundation, and viewers like you.